Do you feel like your life is just scraping by? Do you have big goals that seem out of reach? Well, today we are going to go through 3 things that made Genghis Khan successful and how you can use these in your own life to build your own empire. Let's get started. Number 1, the greatest empire builder. Genghis Khan didn't just conquer land, he conquered hearts and minds too. He didn't do it alone, he built an empire with a loyal army. But even more than that, he recruited people into his fold by being a benevolent leader. How so? Well, when he met a village, some surrendered immediately to him, but others resisted. And if they resisted and lost, he would punish them heavily. However, if they surrendered, he showed mercy and offered them amnesty, granting them noble titles and lands, making sure that the commoners were well treated. In fact, he was known to be quite fair, ensuring that punishments and rewards were equal for all. It wasn't about who you knew, it was about what you did. Now, of course, he wasn't perfect because after victories, he gave orders to plunder cities, massacring those who opposed him. But you gotta do what you gotta do to win. You know, not everyone will surrender peacefully. So sometimes you have to send a message. Now, here's where it gets interesting. When he did conquer a city or nation, he allowed them to keep their wealth and property if they paid tribute and submitted to him. Otherwise, it was pillage time. Even the most hardened warriors had to pay tribute to be part of his army. By doing this, he gained control over Central Asia, China, and Eastern Europe, creating one of the largest empires in history. His empire extended across multiple continents, stretching from the Pacific Ocean to Eastern Europe. That's like half the freaking world. What makes this story so inspiring is that he didn't come from royalty. He was born into a clan, but eventually took over the whole thing, uniting the tribes under one banner and becoming the leader of the Mongols, a group that was scattered and divided before his reign. He turned them into a force to be reckoned with, creating the largest contiguous land empire in history. At its peak, his empire spanned over 24 million square kilometers, which is almost 1/8 of the Earth's total land area. But what does this mean for us today? Well, building an empire isn't just about ruling over land and resources, it's about bringing people together to achieve a common goal. But to build that empire, you need strategy. You got to be smart about it. And that's where our second point comes in. Number 2, the mindset of a conqueror. Listen up, friends. You can't conquer the world with a timid heart. You must adopt the mindset of a warrior. You must be willing to take risks, face challenges head on, and adapt to any situation. Just like Genghis Khan, the great conqueror, you must learn to adapt to your terrain. See, when Genghis Khan led his Mongol army on their campaigns of conquest, they didn't just charge into battle blindly. No, they took the time to understand the land they were fighting on. They studied the terrain, the weather, and the resources available and used that knowledge to their advantage. For example, when facing the Western Ziyad dynasty, the Mongols realized they couldn't win an open battle, so they used hit-and-run tactics to wear down their opponents. Similarly, when battling the Taijut clan, they exploited the Taijuts' overconfidence and arrogance to trick them into a trap. They even set fire to their own camp to lure the enemy in. You see, the Mongols didn't just have a strong army, they also had brilliant military minds that knew how to outsmart their opponents. They were masters of adapting to their terrain and using every advantage they could get. So how can you apply this to your own life? Well, let's say you're an entrepreneur looking to expand your business. You can't just copy what worked for you in the past and expect it to work in a new market. You need to study the new terrain, so to speak, and adapt your strategies accordingly. Maybe you need to change your product, your marketing approach, or even your team. But by taking the time to understand the new environment and making the necessary changes, you can increase your chances of success. Don't be afraid to experiment and try new things. Be willing to learn from your mistakes and adapt your strategies as needed. Remember, the most successful people aren't those who never fail, but those who learn from their failures and keep moving forward. As the great philosopher Lao Tzu once said, be content with what you have. Rejoice in the way things are when you realize there is nothing lacking. The whole world belongs to you, and speaking of being content, let's move on to our next point. Number 3, strategy number 3, the power of loyalty. Loyalty. It's a word that gets thrown around a lot, but do you really know what it means? Well, loyalty is more than just sticking with something or someone through thick and thin. It's about being totally committed and dedicated. Like, you wouldn't leave your post halfway through a battle, would you? That's what loyalty is all about. And trust me, if you want to build a real empire, you better have some serious loyalty skills. Genghis Khan understood this better than anyone. He built his empire on the backs of loyal soldiers who trusted him and were willing to die for him. When faced with betrayal, he unleashed his wrath upon the guilty party. Like when one of his generals, Jelm, betrayed his brother and tried to take over the empire, Genghis didn't hesitate to punish him. He ordered Jelm's execution and his entire family to be put to death, showing no mercy whatsoever. Now, that might sound brutal, but it sent a clear message to everyone in the empire that loyalty was paramount and that disloyalty would be met with swift and brutal punishment. And it worked. People were so afraid of crossing Genghis that many of them were willing to endure hardship and humiliation rather than risk his wrath. In fact, one time when a general named Subutai came to greet Genghis with a slight delay, Genghis was furious. He ordered him to be tied up and left to die of starvation. But when Subutai's men explained that he had come as fast as he could and had eaten in order to make the journey quicker, Genghis's anger turned to admiration. He then untied Subutai, gave him food and drink, and praised him for his dedication. Loyalty was rewarded, but disloyalty was met with swift and brutal punishment. And this created a culture of loyalty throughout the empire. Here's the thing, we live in a world where people jump from job to job, relationship to relationship, all in search of something better. But if you want to build a real empire, you need to be willing to stick with something or someone even when it gets tough. Now, that doesn't mean you shouldn't ever walk away from a bad situation, of course not. But it does mean that you should always try to fix a situation first before giving up. Because at the end of the day, it's not about the money or the power or the fame. It's about the legacy you leave behind. And you can't leave a lasting legacy if you're always running away from your problems. Stay in the game, fight for what you believe in, and don't ever quit. Applying this to your life, look, I get it, we're all busy trying to make it in this crazy world. But let's be honest, if you want to be successful, you can't just sit back and wait for things to happen. You have to take action, but I'm not just talking about any old action. I'm talking about intentional, focused action towards a specific goal. Just like Genghis Khan, you need to have a vision for what you want to achieve and then work tirelessly to make it happen. Now, I know it's easier said than done, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't try. Think about it. If Genghis Khan hadn't taken his small nomadic tribe and turned them into a massive empire, none of this would have been possible. But he didn't just do it by chance. He had a plan and he stuck to it. He knew what he wanted and he went after it with everything he had. And guess what? It worked. He built one of the largest empires in history. So what are you waiting for? Take inspiration from Genghis Khan and start building your own empire today. Set goals for yourself, develop a plan to achieve those goals, and then take action. Don't let anything stand in your way. Remember, the most successful people in the world didn't get there by being lazy or unmotivated. They got there by setting goals and working their butts off to achieve them. So stop complaining and start doing. Stop dreaming and start scheming. Stop wishing and start achieving. The world is yours for the taking. All you have to do is go after it. Your empire awaits. Okay, so now I want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on Genghis Khan and his empire building strategies? Have you ever thought of building your own empire? Leave a comment below and let's discuss. Also, please remember to like the video if you enjoyed it and found it valuable. And don't forget to subscribe for more epic stories and motivational journeys. Thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next video.